So, I've been playing a lot of the Middle-earth strategy battle game lately, and I decided I wanted to try and run an army from this book, The Rise of Angmar. Now, this is from the last edition, but still relevant. And so, whilst looking through the pages, I came across the Knights of Arnor, and I thought, brilliant! A cavalry option for a force that traditionally didn't have one. So I thought, why not get myself half a dozen of these? So I went onto the Games Workshop website, and that's when I saw the price. And I realised for 6 of these, it was going to cost me £96.
No. What the?
Oh my God! It's always fun to see Tom faint.
So my solution to save myself a fortune was to get an old box of the Knights of Minas Tirith off of eBay. Now, the Knights of Minas Tirith are actually very similar to the Knights of Arnor, except they have a different helmet. So, this provided a good chance to get creative and get converting. Let's listen in on those opening noises. So with this model, we have the base for our conversion. All we really needed to do was clip them off the sprue, take our scalpel, peel off quite carefully, but to be honest, it wasn't very difficult, the iconography of the Tree of Gondor, which incidentally you could leave on if you weren't that bothered, and then chop the head off and stick a different one on. And we would essentially have very cheaply and very easily made ourselves a nice alternative. Now, the heads I used were from some Perry miniatures which were lying around. Now, the Perry twins sculpted a lot of the original Lord of the Rings plastics, and so the scale is a very nice one to use if you want to sub in some proxies from the Perry's historical range. And that's exactly what we've done here. So with that explanation, I'll be quiet now and insert some nice, soothing, generic elevator music. Enjoy! So after decapitating the soldier, I always feel a bit guilty when I do that, do you? I then decided just to tidy up round about the kind of neck, just cut off the rest of his collarbone and all that stuff that's sticking out. And then it was off with his head for the next guy as well, the substitute Perry miniature, which I think was some sort of War of the Roses archer. Maybe they've got the kind of similar helmet as we see on the Knights of Arnor. Now, I then just simply glued the head down onto the body of the Gondorian. You could, if you wanted to, green stuff in, flowing, luscious hair and all this sorts of stuff, but to be honest with you, I didn't bother. And for a gaming piece, I think that's fine. You can take it as far as you want. You could just sculpt an entire new head if you so wished, out of green stuff. But for the sake of this, I thought it looked fine, so I left it. And so with that, the conversion was done, and it was on to the painting. So for this, I undercoated the whole thing with a black spray, and then I took a light black, if there's such a thing as that. It's probably more just a very, very, very dark grey, and started just gingerly, carefully following the raised edges on the horse's body to kind of give it that early highlight. And when I was satisfied with that, I think I used either an Eshin Grey or a Dawnstone. I then took a lighter shade of grey, you can use anything, and gave the mane and the tail, and to be honest, the top part of the body of the horse, just a light dry brush, and that picked out quite a lot of the details. So yeah, painting horses isn't that scary. Well, if you make them black. Next, I picked out the metallics, and I used Games Workshop's Lead Belcher for this, and that meant the kind of face guard on the horse, and then pretty much the entire body of the warrior. After that, I took the fang, which is kind of like a shadowy blue colour, and I used this to pick out the detail on the reins, and then the shield and tunic of the warrior. And following that, the next thing I painted were the gloves and any leather work on the horse as well. And I used sort of light tan colour for this, steel legion drab for instance. And following that, I decided I wanted to pick out some of the armour plates, break up that just metallic colour, and I used a nice brassy colour for the pauldrons of the warrior. Next, I used a darker leather colour, so this was Rhinox Hide from Games Workshop, and I used this to paint the saddle seat, both on the actual model's crotch itself, and then on the actual horse as well. And following this, some fine detail, used a nice bright shiny gold for the sword handle. And so next I decided to do some highlighting, and this is obviously an optional stage, but for the gloves, maybe some of the more tricky parts with the fine detailing in between the fingers, I used Baneblade Brown and followed that up with a little bit of Karak Stone for the extreme highlights. And like with any highlighting, use a nice thin brush, make sure you just got a little bit of paint on the end, and just let the side of the brush catch those raised edges. Take your time with it. If you make a mistake, don't worry, you can either go back with your original colour or leave it, cover it with a bit of a dark wash or something like that. It's entirely up to you. And to highlight the tunic, so that was the blue colour that I'd used, which was the fang, I used the lighter shade of this bluey grey, which is rust grey, and you can also mix in, of course, just a little bit of white to your original colour if you don't have rust grey. Following the same highlighting method, I just used the side of the brush to pick off the raised areas on the pendant on the lance, and on the tunic and on the horse is reins as well. Following that, I then also highlighted the armour, and I just used Stormhill Silver for this, and for the real extreme bits I just used straight white, which was white scar, and just picked off the extreme sharp points of the metal. For the face, I used a contrast paint, so that was Guilliman Flesh over the original face. Now you might be thinking, well, you used black paint on this. Well, I just used the Wraithbone pot paint and painted in the face with that first, and then applied the contrast paint over that. To highlight it, I used Kislev Flesh, used to be Elf Flesh, and I used that just to pick out the nose and cheekbones. And well, there you have it. He is done, ready to charge with his lance into the massed hordes of the Orcs of Arnor. Well, I hope this video has shown you that a really easy, quick conversion and a pretty straightforward basic paint job to boot can really help you when it comes to getting that unit you want on the gaming board. Just because the prices are pretty extortionate, there are some pretty straightforward and crafty ways to navigate around that. Hope you've enjoyed this video, and we'll see you again on the next one.